At number 10, we have Taylor Swift and Scooter Braun. So Taylor and Scooter used to work together for quite some time, but that was until 2018 when she left Big Machine Records and signed with another large music label. This confused many fans because everyone was under the impression that Taylor and Scooter's relationship was just fine, especially since he was there for her ever-growing success. It turns out that Scooter and Big Machine tried to prevent Taylor from performing her other classics and re-record them in the future, as she stated in a lengthy Tumblr post to her fans. Big Machine later came out with a statement claiming that Taylor was making up a narrative and told fans to stop coming for them. They insisted that they never told Taylor or her team that she wasn't allowed to do whatever she wanted, but Taylor's reps showed exactly what they were told, which clearly stated Taylor's limits, which they are not legally allowed to do. They even found out that they owed Taylor $8 million in unpaid royalties. It got worse when Scooter sold her masters for $300 million, a decision Taylor was not made aware of. So it's safe to say that these two will never work together ever again.
Number 9. Vin Diesel and Dwayne Johnson. Remember, y'all, family. That's it. That's the intro. Dwayne and Vin first met on the set of the 5th Fast and Furious movie, Fast 5. They're very creative with the titles, these guys. This was Vin Diesel's 5th movie, and while it was Dwayne's first, not just in the franchise, but in the acting world in general. At first, everything seemed to be okay with these guys on set. Fast 5 made a lot of money, and they asked Dwayne Johnson to return for 6 and 7. However, something changed in 2016. In a now deleted post, Dwayne called one of his fellow Fast 7 co-stars a candied bum bum. Okay, he didn't say bum bum, but we can't swear on the internet, so I must speak like a toddler. He actually said a word that rhymes with grass. Rumors began to fly that he was more than likely referencing Vin Diesel. Rumors proven only a week after the post was made. Following the premiere of Fate of the Furious, Johnson posted to Instagram thanking all of his fellow cast members by name, but he left Vin Diesel out. It was later confirmed by Fast and Furious co-star Michelle Rodriguez that there was a massive amount of tension on set of the film. They were bros at first, but as time went on and the franchise evolved, so did their egos. They fought constantly over who should receive more screen time, who was the real lead of the franchise, and, you know, toxic masculinity and all that. To keep both actors happy, Johnson was given a spin-off film in which he co-starred as the lead alongside Jason Statham, and Vin Diesel was left right where he belongs, with his family.
Next up, we have Jennifer Lopez and Mariah Carey. So what most people remember this little feud of theirs is Mariah going, "I don't know her," when asked about Jennifer Lopez. The two stars were going head to head as one of the pop princesses back in the late 90s to early 2000s, so this little jab definitely became a sort of pop culture moment. However, this drama goes beyond some simple industry rivalry and has nothing to do with JLo at all, really. It mostly started when Mariah married Tommy Mottola, who used to own Sony Music Entertainment. Mariah recalled that marriage as a bad one, as she felt controlled by him throughout their 5 years together. When she finally left him in 1998, apparently he was not happy and wanted to sabotage her career. To do so, he used JLo, who was signed with Sony Music at the time. Mariah wanted to use a specific music sample for her upcoming song, and he caught wind of this idea and got JLo to use the exact same sample for her new song. It was a complete setup to tarnish Mariah's career. But funnily enough, both songs did very well on the charts.
Number 7. Wesley Snipes and Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds is known for many things. He's got his toes dipped into the world of adult beverages, wireless cell phone coverage, and he's even a soccer coach. Or football for our friends in the UK. One of his most iconic roles as an actor is of course the Merc with the Mouth, Mr. Deadpool himself. However, in 2008, Ryan was a part of a different Marvel movie. As some may know, the original Marvel movie that started this whole live-action comics thing was the Blade trilogy, starring Wesley Snipes as the titular vampire hunter. Now, by the time the 3rd film of the franchise rolled around, Wesley Snipes was just done with working on set. He hated the way the franchise was turning out, and all of his creative suggestions were just quickly shut down. His main problem was the fact that Blade Trinity was written as a straight-up comedy action movie. The previous entries were just dark action movies filled with gore and some pretty stellar fight sequences. So when Van Wilder was cast to be his co-star, he gave up. He famously refused to film several scenes unless he was allowed to keep his shades on. Apparently he was micro-napping during scenes because he just didn't care anymore. Ryan played a big part in his difficulty enjoying the shoot. Apparently Reynolds made it his mission to make Wesley Snipes snap, and he would constantly do bits, push things too far. You know, just the general Ryan Reynolds chaos that we're used to at this point. At the end of the day, Blade Trinity ended up burying the franchise, and Wesley has refused to ever allow Ryan on set with him ever again.
Next up, we have Rina, Sawayama, and Matty, Healy. So these two used to be on good terms actually. After the release of her single Shut the F Up in 2019, she said in an interview that Matty contacted her with nothing but praise and support for her. She even reciprocated the respect and admiration she had for him. However, things took a turn this year following Matty's participation in a recent podcast episode. He and the other podcast hosts were making fun of Ice Spice and using some outdated terms and racially discriminating comments about her. He even encouraged one of the hosts to mock Asian accents, especially a Japanese one, which in this current climate is very unwise. Considering that Rina is Japanese, she did not appreciate this at all. Recently, Rina performed Shut the F Up clearly in response to Matty. Before the song started, she told fans, "This goes out to the white man that mocks Asian people on a podcast. He also owns my masters. I've had enough."
Number 5. James Franco and Seth Rogen. Despite the many collaborations between these two over the years, like The Interview and Pineapple Express, Seth Rogen has gone on record and refuses to work with James Franco on any future projects. You see, James has placed himself in a little bubble of public exile for using his powers for evil. The man behind some iconic characters like Tommy Wiseau and the Disaster Artist, or Harry Osborn and Spider-Man, with just so many more. We could literally make a list of just cool things he's done. Apparently though, James has a problem keeping his hands to himself, and he's not a great guy, especially when it comes to his acting students. In 2018, 5 female students at his Studio 4 acting school in North Hollywood told the Los Angeles Times that Franco had parlayed his position to exploit them physically. 2 of those women sued, and Franco was forced to settle outside of court, forking over $2.23 million. At the time, he was writing, acting, and directing a show for HBO called The Deuce, which was allowed to stay on and finish because it was being canceled anyway. Fans called for James to be blacklisted from the world of Hollywood, and Seth Rogen told the Times of London that the scandal had changed their relationship and he has not spoken to James since the news first broke.
Next, at number 4, we have Kesha and Dr. Luke. According to an article, Kesha sued her former music producer Dr. Luke for infliction of emotional distress, intimate-based hate crimes, and employment discrimination. Throughout their decade-long partnership together prior to this, she admitted that he physically and emotionally harmed her. The producer denied all of her claims and even filed a countersuit against her for defamation. This was a years-long legal battle, and things were not looking good for the singer, as her request for a preliminary injunction was denied by the court and her counterclaims were dismissed. It was found out that Kesha wrote at least 70 songs for her past album Warrior, but Dr. Luke scrapped all of them. She had very little creative freedom for her music, and in 2013, there was even a petition going around asking that Kesha leave the label. But just last month, she released a statement telling fans that they finally reached a settlement. She didn't disclose any further details, but it's clear she wants to leave it in the past and move forward with her music and her life.
Number 3. Bill Murray and Lucy Liu. Does anybody else just get the most hardcore Charlie's Angel flashbacks when they see these two together? Sony's first foray into the world of Charlie's Angels was a massive success when it released, starring Cameron Diaz, Drew Barrymore, and Lucy Liu as the titular angels. The movie was filled with action, a little bit of comedy, and one of the strangest performances ever delivered by Crispin Glover. Like, my god, that guy needs help. One interesting addition to the cast was the inclusion of Ghostbusters alumni Bill Murray as the man behind the mic, Bosley. Apparently the set was anything but a comedy after Bill found out a scene was rewritten without his knowledge. In an interview with the news outlet Deadline, Lucy Liu spoke up about her time on set and the situation surrounding Bill's outburst. Apparently Bill was away for a family event when a scene needed to be reshot for the film. Instead of using a stand-in, it was decided that the scene could be filmed without Murray's character being involved. So the scene went on without him. And when he returned to find that the change was made while he was gone, he got furious. He reportedly shouted at half of the crew, including Lucy herself. At first she wasn't sure why he was aiming his comments at her. She didn't write the scene, she wasn't the director, like why was it her fault? She asked if Bill was talking to her, which apparently sent him into a full-blown meltdown. She decided to speak out on Bill's behavior on set, and he was ultimately written out of the sequel. Lucy is proud for speaking her mind despite being a relatively unknown actor at the time, and is glad that Bill's career seems to have suffered for it, because Lucy was just the first of many celebrities to comment on his behavior, but let's save that for another time. ton.
Next up at number 2, we have Olivia Rodrigo and Sabrina Carpenter. So before the Selena and Healy drama, there was the beef between Olivia and Sabrina. It was mostly created by mere fan speculation alone, but hey, the internet is the internet. After Olivia released her single Driver's License, it helped catapult her into the mainstream. Along with this newly found fame, it came with drama she didn't ask for. Fans were convinced the song was about Sabrina and Joshua Bassett, Olivia's former co-star and rumored ex. While it was never confirmed, the hate was very much apparent towards Sabrina, where she responded with some tasteful music of her own. Her song, Because I Liked a Boy, pretty much summarized the mistreatment she faced from bashers, and it became a major hit. While the drama has definitely died down, thank God, fans are eager to see the two collaborate in some way. At the Met Gala last year, it was believed there was a shot of the two greeting each other civilly, but not much has come out besides that. But never say never, because who knows what could happen down the road.
And at number 1, Robert Downey Jr. and Terrence Howard. Any fans of the Marvel Cinematic Universe certainly recognize Terrence Howard as the man who originally played Tony Stark's best friend slash sidekick, Colonel James Rhodes. He was fired by Marvel Studios after only one film due to the difficult time that the director Jon Favreau had with him on set. According to Jon, he was not only unhappy with Terrence's performance as a person, but he was forced to reshoot and cut several scenes last minute because he just did such a bad job as Rhodes. When the sequel rolled around, Marvel was forced to make a move. They had signed Terrence on for a 3-film deal, paying him $8 million per movie, but due to his antics on set, the studio offered him a measly $1 million instead. Now, where does Robert play into all this? Well, apparently the person that he was being difficult with on set was Iron Man. It turns out that Marvel actually didn't want RDJ to initially join the Marvel Universe due to his past troubles with substance control. However, Terrence vouched for him and actually took a $1 million pay decrease to get his buddy into the role, something that Marvel denies ever happening. RDJ has never commented on that aspect of anything, but he has said that it was completely out of his control when Terrence was let go. The studio didn't want to recast Downey because he was so good at his job. While they were able to patch things up and seem to be on good terms now, RDJ refuses to ever work with him again. Sometimes you gotta keep your work friends and your friends separate. Number 10, Tom Hardy versus Charlize Theron. Mad Max Fury Road is a forgotten gem in cinema history. It featured little to no CGI despite having some insane visuals, and it also featured some stellar performances from its cast, including Nicholas Hoult, Charlize Theron, and Tom Hardy. Charlize and Tom played the main characters, Furiosa and Max, and while their on-screen characters ended up working together in the end, on set there was a very different vibe. Tom had a bad habit of showing up late all the time. Meanwhile, Charlize was a brand new mother who would be there on time every day while her kids were forced to be taken care of by someone else. In a book called Blood, Sweat, and Chrome, The Wild and True Story of Mad Max Fury Road, writer Kyle Buchanan shared an instance on set between Charlize and Tom. Everyone was on set at 8 a.m. ready to shoot except for Mr. Hardy. But to make a point, Charlize took her place and stayed there until Tom showed up. 3 hours later, she didn't move a muscle, and according to the crew, she was beyond furious. When Tom finally showed up, she asked him how he could be so disrespectful and said that they should fine this C next Tuesday $100,000 for every minute that he's held up the crew. Yeah, she didn't say see you next Tuesday, but the word she did say set Tom off. He rushed up to her and pulled out the whole "what'd you say to me?" thing, you know, like, oh, big tough guy, I can't hear anything. Overall, Charlize felt very threatened by Tom and had to have an assistant follow her around on set as a buffer between the two. When the shoot wrapped, the tension was gone and things seemed to have gotten better, but the difficult shoot combined with the stress of the project is most likely the reason that there was never a Mad Max 2. Number 9, Ryan Gosling versus Rachel McAdams. The Notebook is considered to be one of the greatest romantic movies ever made in Hollywood. Oddly enough, the on-screen couple did not get along at all during the shoot. They would constantly fight on set and seemed to have completely different ideas on how several scenes should be played out. One day in particular was pretty exciting for anyone who wasn't involved, you know, drama watchers who were sipping their tea. Ryan called over the director and demanded that Rachel be replaced by another actress to read her lines with him. In front of 150 crew members, he claimed that Rachel wasn't giving him anything to work with, and the two would constantly yell on set. Their toxic on-set feud somehow morphed into a toxic relationship that lasted for 2 years. Anyone who worked on on the set blames them for constant schedule setbacks and creating just an overall difficult work environment. Number 8. LL Cool J versus Jamie Foxx. Jamie Foxx has been a huge star in the world of Hollywood over the years, working with several acclaimed directors in every genre under the sun, but like most actors, Jamie had to start somewhere, and that somewhere was in the film Any Given Sunday from 1999, alongside Al Pacino, Cameron Diaz, Dennis Quaid, and of course, LL Cool J. Cool J and Jamie played teammates in the football-centric flick, and not only do their characters constantly fight on screen, but behind the scenes they had an actual brawl that ended in Miami County Police being called in. During one scene, the two were scripted to fight and filmed the first 2 takes as planned. However, some offset beef made its way in front of the camera when Jamie struck Cool J for real, splitting his lip open, and an all-out beatdown took place, leaving Jamie unconscious and in the hospital. They had to stop production because they weren't sure when Jamie would actually be able to return and film his scenes. When Fox did return to the set, it was with a small crew of friends and his manager. Waiting to greet them was LL Cool J and half of Brooklyn, according to the director, who stated that the tension was only settled after the real-life football players that the characters were based on came on set to defuse the situation. Number 7. Ryan Reynolds versus Wesley Snipes. Ryan Reynolds is known for many things. He's got his toe dipped into the world of adult beverages, wireless cell phone coverage, and he's even a soccer coach. Or football for our friends in the UK. One of his most iconic roles as an actor is of course the Merc with the Mouth, Mr. Deadpool himself. However, in 2004, Ryan was a part of a different Marvel movie. As some may know, the original Marvel movie that started this whole live-action comic trend was the Blade trilogy, starring Wesley Snipes as the titular vampire hunter. By the time the 3rd movie of the franchise rolled around, Wesley Snipes was just kinda done with working on set. He hated the way the franchise was turning out, and all of his creative suggestions were quickly shut down. His main problem was the fact that Blade Trinity was written as like a straight-up comedy movie when the previous entries were more dark, action-based movies, filled with gore and some pretty stellar fight sequences. So when Van Wilder was cast to be his co-star, he kinda gave up. He famously refused to film several scenes unless he was allowed to wear his shades on set. Apparently he was like micro-napping during takes, because he just didn't care anymore. Ryan played a big part in his difficulty enjoying the shoot. Apparently he made it his mission to make Wesley snap. He'd constantly do bits, push things too far, and just the general Ryan Reynolds chaos that we're all used to at this point. At the end of the day, Blade Trinity ended up burying the franchise and was one of the most chaotic and toxic films ever made in 2004. Ooh, number 6. Vin Diesel versus The Rock. Remember everybody, family. That's it. That's my intro. Dwayne and Vin Diesel met on set of the 5th Fast and Furious movie, Fast 5. Very creative title. This was Vin Diesel's 5th movie, but it was Dwayne's first, not just in the franchise, but in the acting world in general. At first, everything seemed to be okay with these guys on set. Fast 5 made a lot of money, and they asked Dwayne to return for a 6 and 7. However, something changed in 2016 when in a now deleted post Dwayne called one of his fellow Cast 7 co-stars a candied bum bum. He didn't say bum bum, but I'm not allowed to say that real word on the internet, so I must speak like a toddler. He actually said a word that rhymes with grass. Rumors began to fly that this was more than likely referring to Vin Diesel. Rumors proven only a week after that post was made. Following the premiere of Fate of the Furious, Johnson posted on Instagram thanking all of his fellow cast members by name, but he left Vin out of the equation. It was later confirmed by Fast and Furious co-star Michelle Rodriguez that there was a massive amount of tension on set of the film. They were bros at first, but as the time went on and the franchise evolved, so did their egos. They fought constantly over who should receive the most screen time and who was the real lead of the franchise. You know, toxic masculinity and all that. To keep both actors happy, Johnson was given a spin-off in which he co-starred as the lead alongside Jason Statham, and Vin Diesel was left right where he belongs, with his family. I know it's a bad impression, but it's a fun word to say in his voice. Number 5. Bill Murray versus Lucy Liu. Does anybody else just get the most hardcore Charlie's Angels flashbacks when they see these two together? No? Fair. Sony's first foray into the world of Charlie's Angels was a massive success when it was released, starring Cameron Diaz, Drew Barrymore, and Lucy Liu as the titular angels. The movie was filled with action, a little bit of comedy, and one of the strangest performances ever delivered by Crispin Glover. Seriously, that guy needs help. One interesting addition to the cast was the inclusion of Ghostbusters alumni Bill Murray as the man behind the microphone, Mr. Bosley. Apparently, the set was anything but a comedy after Bill found out a scene had been rewritten without his knowledge. college. In an interview with the news outlet Deadline, Lucy Liu spoke up about her time on set and the situation surrounding Bill's outburst. Apparently, Bill was away for a family event when a scene needed to be reshot for the movie, but instead of using a stand-in, it was decided that the scene could be filmed without Murray's character being involved, so it went on without him. When he returned to find that the change had been made while he was gone, he was furious and reportedly shouted at half of the crew, including Lucy herself. At first, she wasn't sure why he was aiming his comments at her. She didn't write the scene, she wasn't the director, so she asked if Bill was talking to her specifically, which apparently sent him into a full-blown meltdown. She decided to speak out on Bill's behavior on set, and he was ultimately written out of the sequel. Lucy is proud for speaking her mind despite being a relatively unknown actor at the time, and is very glad that Bill's career seems to have suffered for it, because Lucy was just the first of many celebrities to comment on his behavior. We'll save that for another time. Number 4. Will Smith versus Janet Hubert. Will Smith got his big break in the acting world thanks to his successful time on the hit sitcom Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. The show followed Will as the titular prince, living with his wealthy family in Bel-Air, surrounded by cousins, uncles, and of course, Aunt Viv. In season 1, Aunt Viv was played by a woman named Janet Hubert Whitten, who, as many know, was recasted after an on-set feud with Will Smith just went a little bit too far. According to Will, Janet viewed him as the antagonist of her life. She had been in the business for years when suddenly this man popped into her life, and she held a tinge of jealousy towards Will as he just walked into town and he got a gig. Well, that's what happens when you're good at your job, Janet. She was trying to convince the producers to give her character more screen time and allow her to breathe on camera, but they said no because it was not the Aunt Viv show. She fought back hard, but it was ultimately decided that she would be asked to sit out for the rest of the series and be replaced by Daphne Maxwell Reid, who is the Aunt Viv that everybody knows and loves. Number 3. Tom Hardy versus Shia LaBeouf. Making a return on this list is Mr. Tom Hardy, but this time it's with Shia. This was an on-set feud that was innocent from the perspective of the actors, but not the people who were making their movie. In 2012, Shia and Tom starred in a period piece crime drama called Lawless. It was a pretty solid movie featuring stellar performances from both of its leading men. In 2019, on an episode of the popular talk show Hot Ones, Shia addressed the rumors that he had knocked out his on-screen partner Tom during the shoot. According to Shia, the two were closer than people think and acted more like college buddies than enemies. Shia claims that the two would wrestle a lot on set and that it would sometimes distract people from their work. The rumor that he knocked Tom out was actually started by Tom after he fell down the stairs one night, and apparently he was getting ready for his role as Bane in Christopher Nolan's third Batman movie at the time, and Shia claims that the main reason he wanted people to think he was in a fight was, again, big tough guy. Their feud may have been innocent between themselves, but to everyone on the outside, Tom Hardy was about to pile drive Shia LaBeouf every 5 minutes. Number 2. Ray Fisher versus Joss Whedon. Ray played a major role in the 2017 DC movie Justice League as Cyborg. Not only was this the first live-action iteration of the character for film, but he was also the first black superhero in a leading role in DC. According to Fisher, he was mindful of this and he delivered the best performance that he could, and honestly, it was a great performance. There have been way worse actors involved with DC, and Cyborg was one of the best parts of the 2017 version. Now, I keep saying that because, as some may not know, the original director of the movie, Zack Snyder, was forced to drop out of the shoot midway through production due to a personal tragedy. The studio decided to bring in Avengers director Joss Whedon to finish the project, and at first he was just supposed to direct the movie, but he ended up rewriting most of the script and reshooting several of the scenes already finished by Zack. This is where the tension started. Joss did not appreciate any outside input on his script, and Ray was a very vocal performer who wanted to stick to the original vision that Zack Snyder had. A vision that we actually got to see in 2021 thanks to the Snyder cut of the film being released. It's 2 more hours, but it's way better. Ray claimed that Joss was not only dismissive towards his ideas, but that he was an absolute monster to work with. Following the release of the film, Fisher voiced his complaints to DC and Warner Brothers, who opened a brief investigation into the situation, but quickly dismissed the case, claiming that there was insufficient evidence to prove he was telling the truth. Thankfully, several of his co-stars and crew members backed up those claims that Joss was a very angry, racist, and just manipulative boss, creating an extremely toxic environment on set. The backlash from fans, combined with the hashtag Snyder Cut, allowed Warner Brothers to finish Zack's original vision for the project and release a 4-hour Snyder Cut in 2021. Not only is Cyborg's storyline much better in this version, but the project overall is considered to be one of the best DC movies ever made. And at number 1, James Franco Franco versus Tyrese Gibson. So this feud was brought to my attention by a fellow host here at the studio, and I had never actually heard of this movie before today, but once I found out it was between James Franco and Tyrese, we had to include it on this list. These two start opposite each other in a 2005 dramatic piece called Annapolis. The story follows Franco's character wanting to attend the titular Naval Academy and entering into a boxing tournament against some of the Navy's best and brightest. His main opponent is Tyrese Gibson. Throughout the majority of the filming, James and Tyrese would regularly practice the choreography for the final fight of the film. Now, method acting is one thing, when you just pretend to be someone else all the time and that's it. But it's different when you're literally punching your co-star for real. Instead of the normal film choreography allowing actors to fake hit each other, Franco was throwing real punches without warning. Gibson tried to be civil at first and asked him to lighten up. Franco ignored him and just continued to box his heart out. When asked about the incident in interviews, Franco defended himself by saying that he was aware that he made the set difficult at times and claimed to be so wrapped up in his role that he probably wasn't as friendly as he could be. Gibson, however, holds a massive grudge towards Franco, claiming that he would never step foot in the same room as this man ever again. Good news for Tyrese, James got cancelled and Fast 11's coming soon. Number 10, Will Smith versus Janet Hubert. Will Smith got his big break in the acting world thanks to his successful time on the hit sitcom Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. The show followed Will as the titular prince, living with his wealthy family in Bel-Air, surrounded by cousins, uncles, and of course, his Aunt Viv. In season 1, Aunt Viv was played by a woman named Janet Hubert Witten, but as many know, she was recasted after an on-set feud with Will Smith that went a little bit too far. According to Will, Janet viewed him as the antagonist of her life. She had been in the business for years when Will just suddenly popped into her life. She held a tinge of jealousy towards Will as he just walked into her town and got the gig. That's what happens when you're good at your job, Janet. She was trying to convince the producers to give her character more screen time and allow her to breathe on camera, but they said no because it was not the Aunt Viv show. She fought back hard, but it was ultimately decided that she would be asked to sit out the rest of the series and be replaced by Daphne Maxwell Reid, who is the Aunt Viv that we all know and love. Number 9, Lady Gaga and Perez Hilton. Ra ra ooh la la. Lady Gaga has been the queen of pop music for over 15 years, delivering hit after hit over and over again. Paparazzi, Poker Face, Just Dance, so good that it got its own game for the Wii. Back in 2009, she was actually very good friends with a man named Perez Hilton. For those who forgot this man exists, I do apologize for the triggering photographs that are surely on the screen right now. Perez is a famous blogger who in the early 2000s was the man with the inside scoop, but it was because he was being friendly, learning secrets and exposing them on the internet. Apparently, following the release of Lady Gaga's Born This Way, Perez was overwhelmingly negative about the project, and he actually egged her on one night while indulging in the no-no juice, trying to make her cry for a photo op. As you may guess, she decided to dump her fake friend from her life, which had a massive effect on Perez himself. Thanks to the public shame brought down on him by Gaga, and the rest of Hollywood did the same. He was slowly weaned out of the public eye, and hey, this is the first time you've heard about him in forever, so there you go. Number 8, Cardi B and Brian Zaz. This will not be Cardi's first time on this list, as she's been known to be quite temperamental. Last month, a small submarine imploded at the bottom of the ocean near the wreckage of the Titanic. Inside were 5 passengers, including the stepfather of one, Brian Zaz. Now, Brian is no one special. In fact, according to Cardi, nobody knew who he was until he told the world that his stepdaddy was on board the submarine. He did tell people in a strange way, though. After the news of the sub being missing spread across the globe, Brian tweeted that he was worried for his stepdad, but that he still planned on attending the Blink-182 concert and tagged the band members. Like, they're gonna see that and go, oh, right on, little dude. He also mentioned his stepfather when tweeting a model of a website that's only for fans. Get it? Cardi B decided she needed to call this man out on his behavior. She claimed the boy was using Twitter for clout and that he should take the situation more seriously instead of partying with models and attending concerts. Well, Brian clapped back by calling her new music trash and claiming that he was using Blink-182 as a coping mechanism. Regardless of why this feud took place, Brian was forced to delete his account on Twitter, and Cardi received a little bit of backlash. Oh, and oh yeah, a submarine blew up. Number 7, Katy Perry, an American Idol contestant. Recently, Katy Perry took to social media to announce that she wants to quit the successful singing competition American Idol after 6 years over fears that she is being thrown under the bus by producers who edit the show to make her seem like she's a nasty judge. Katy has faced a slew of controversy and scandal over the current season of American Idol, and it seems like it's all becoming just too much for her to bear. For those who don't know, on the recent season, season of American Idol, Katy Perry had an interesting reaction to a contestant revealing that she was a mother of 3 and much older than she looked. Katy stood up out of her chair and almost laid on the judges' table. The contestant, Sarah Beth, joked that if Katy laid on the table, she would die, and Katy responded with, "Honey, you've been laying on the table too much." At first everyone laughed and this seemed all good and fun, but following her audition, Sarah announced that she would be going back to California to be with her family, claiming that she just wasn't cut out for show business. But she later took to Twitter to call Perry out for that joke, which was both mom shaming and something else shaming that I can't say on the internet. While this was a one-time incident, Katy has been known to be shady during her time as a judge, and her comments aren't always as helpful as I'm sure they're meant to be. Number 6, Vin Diesel versus Dwayne Johnson. Diesel and The Rock first crossed paths working together on the set of the 5th installment of the Fast and Furious franchise, Fast 5. Yeah, they're real clever with the names, these guys. Apparently their time on set was anything but romantic. According to crew members and cast on Fast and Furious sets, these two were constantly arguing on set over the littlest things. The Rock actually posted a comment aimed at Vin, calling his newest co-star a candy bum. Alright, he didn't say bum bum, but I'm not allowed to say the real word, so I must speak like a toddler. While rumors were flying left and right, these guys never made a public statement on the matter, but it was Johnson that confirmed that he and Vin never actually filmed their scenes together in Fate of the Furious, which might be why the movie felt so stitched together and just bad. The feud was so bad that instead of continuing to include his character in the franchise, it was decided that The Rock would just get his own spin-off buddy team-up movie with Jason Statham's Deckard Shaw, which is the backfired that landed him on this list, because while fans loved Hobbs and Shaw, everyone else called it a dud, and the movie was ultimately a flop. Number 5, Taylor Swift versus Kanye West. That's right, these two are in a feud, and can you guess who suffered for it? I'll give you a hint. In 2009, Kanye interrupted Swift during MTV's Music Video Awards, as she was in the middle of an acceptance speech for Best Female Music Video. He called Beyonce's video the best of all time before awkwardly leaving the stage, but over the next few months, their rumored feud had become public, with Swift bashing Kanye's rude behavior during a time that was specifically set for her. Kanye later apologized and things seemed to be okay until 2015, when the rapper released a song called Famous, in which he said the line, and I'm paraphrasing of course because it's the internet, "I feel like me and Taylor may still make love. Why I made that be famous." Swift was very vocal about her dislike for the song and claimed that it was written to undermine her success. A few months later, Swift also put Kanye's then wife Kim Kardashian on blast after the influencer had publicly approved of the song's lyrics. Joke's on them though, as they had just made enemies with a woman who fuels her soul with haters. Kanye eventually canceled himself because it turns out he was not a good guy at all, so happy ending to that one. Number 4, Nicki Minaj versus Miley Cyrus. MTV, the channel that just continues to deliver us such juicy reality moments. MTV is responsible for the inception of one of the greatest award shows of all time, the Video Music Awards. This ceremony celebrates the best and brightest of the music industry, but in 2015 things got extra juicy. Miley Cyrus, remembered fondly as Hannah Montana and remembered for riding a wrecking ball, was hosting the ceremony and doing a pretty solid job. Rapper Nicki Minaj had just taken the stage after winning the Best Hip Hop Video Award, but quickly shifted the audience's attention from herself to the host. Minaj was calling Miley out for supposedly talking trash about her in a recent interview. She asked, "Hey Miley, what's good?" And Miley responded. She kept her cool and explained that everyone in the industry knows that news outlets and interviewers can manipulate footage to make comments sound worse than they actually are. She then reminded the audience about her difficult to watch performance at the ceremony in 2008 and threw an 80-foot picture of it up on the wall to emphasize her point. Minaj's mic was cut off and Miley introduced the list of artists being nominated for Best Future Artist before leaving the stage. Nicki loves to fight, but she received massive amounts of backlash from people attending the ceremony telling her to just leave the drama at home next time and let Miley do her thing. Number 3, Kanye West and Pete Davidson. Pete Davidson became the youngest cast member on Saturday Night Live when he was hired at the age of 20, and he was a massive part of the show until leaving it last season. In 2021, Kim Kardashian hosted an episode of the show and starred in a sketch with Pete parodying A Whole New World from the Disney movie Aladdin. The sketch was okay, but apparently sitting that close to each other all week really got him going. At the time, Kim was still involved with rapper Kanye West, who actually attended the live show, but he stormed out of the room following her scene with Pete. Apparently, Kanye had been present at rehearsals all week, and he remembers regularly seeing Pete and Kim smiling and laughing together while he was being ignored entirely, like a toddler standing in the corner just like, when's it my turn? Kanye called out Pete online telling him to stay away from his woman. Well, Kim didn't like that kind of behavior at all, and not long after their feud was made public, Kim and Kanye began their divorce process, and simultaneously Pete announced that him and Kim were officially dating. Since then, Kanye has publicly bashed both his ex and Pete for their actions. You mad, little Kanye? That sucks. Number 2, Isaiah Washington versus Grey's Anatomy. Grey's Anatomy is a TV drama centered on the personal and professional lives of 5 surgical interns and their supervisors. The show garnered a massive fan base and was on air for over 420 episodes. For 62 of those episodes, a man named Isaiah Washington portrayed the character of Dr. Preston Burke. Following his departure from the series, Isaiah took to social media to call out the cast and crew of Grey's Anatomy for creating a hostile work environment. It was actually later revealed that apparently Isaiah himself was responsible for the so-called hostility. He had started multiple feuds with fellow cast members, including a physical altercation with Patrick Dempsey on set. He used homophobic slurs against T.R. Knight, and he threw shade at Katherine Heigl for throwing shade at him for using that slur. Needless to say, this is a very one-sided feud, as the Grey's producers just simply shut the door in this guy's face and told him to take a hike. Maybe next time you'll respect your workplace, Isaiah. Number 1, Cardi B versus Aja Davies. In 2017, rapper Cardi B and model Aja Davies appeared on an episode of VH1's Love and Hip Hop talk show. Things became heated very quickly when the topic of Aja's ex-boyfriend Swift came up. According to Davies, she was convinced that Cardi and Swift were intimate together while she was still dating him. Cardi responded to the accusation by throwing her stiletto at her face and then jumped up and began making her way towards the model, but was stopped by 2 large security guards. Good thing too, considering on the other side of the room, Aja had done the same thing and was also being held back. An all-out brawl almost took place, but the altercation resorted to the pair yelling at each other from across the room, with Cardi's main grievance being the judgment being placed upon her by Davies for being an exotic dancer before her time as a music artist. Like, where did that come from? Their career suffered dips in sales as their fans weren't sure what to make of the feud. Whose side should they be on? Well, things are better now, but their careers have never been the same. Number 10, Taylor Swift versus Kanye West. That's right, these two are in a feud, and apparently it's lasted for quite some time. In 2009, Kanye interrupted Swift during MTV's Music Video Awards as she was in the middle of an acceptance speech for Best Female Music Video. While there was no altercation that took place on camera, over the next few months, the feud had become public, with Swift bashing Kanye's rude behavior during time specifically set aside for her. Kanye later apologized, and things seemed to be fine until 2015, when the rapper released a song called Famous, in which he said the line, where I'm paraphrasing of course, "I feel like me and Taylor may still make love. Why? I made that be famous." Swift was very vocal about her dislike for the song, and claimed that it was written to undermine her success. A few months later, Swift also put Kanye's wife, Kim Kardashian, on blast after the influencer had publicly approved of the song's lyrics. Joke's on them though, as they have just made enemies with a woman who fuels her soul with hatred. I wonder what she's gonna be cooking up for us right now. Number 9, Cardi B versus Aja Davies. In 2017, rapper Cardi B and model Aja Davies appeared on an episode of VH1's Love and Hip Hop talk show. Things became heated very quickly when the topic of Aja's ex-boyfriend Swift came up. According to Davies, she was convinced that Cardi B and Swift were intimate together while she was still dating Swift. Cardi responded to the accusation by throwing her stiletto at Aja's face. She then jumped up and began making her way towards the model, but was stopped by 2 large security guards. Good thing too, considering on the other side of the room, Aja had done the same thing and was also being held back. An all-out brawl almost took place, but the altercation resorted to the pair yelling at each other from across the room, with Cardi's main grievance being the judgment placed upon her by Davies for being an exotic dancer before her time as a music artist. While Davies claimed that wasn't the case, it was very clear from both their verbal and physical language that there was certainly some shade looming overhead. Number 8, Nicki Minaj versus Miley Cyrus. MTV. It's the channel that just continues to deliver us such juicy reality moments. MTV was, however, responsible for the inception of one of the greatest award shows of all time, the Video Music Awards. The ceremony celebrates the best and brightest of the music industry, but in 2015 things got a little extra juicy. Miley Cyrus, remembered fondly as Hannah Montana and remembered for riding a wrecking ball, was hosting the event that year. Rapper Nicki Minaj had just taken the stage after winning the Best Hip Hop Video Award, but quickly shifted the audience's attention from herself to the host, Miley. Minaj was calling Miley out for supposedly repeatedly talking trash about her in a recent interview. She asked Miley what's good, and Miley responded. She kept her cool and explained that everyone in the industry knows that news outlets and interviewers can manipulate footage to make comments sound worse than they actually are. She then reminded the audience about her difficult to watch performance at the ceremony in 2008 and then threw an 80-foot picture up on the wall to emphasize her point. Minaj's mic was cut off and Miley introduced the list of artists being nominated for Best Future Artist before leaving the stage. This wouldn't be the first time Nicki got into it with another celebrity though, and her feud with Miley has persisted ever since. Number 7. Hailey Bieber and Selena Gomez. Selena and Hailey share a feud. Reminds us of two kids in high school that just can't get along, only this time it's not just over a boy. Selena Gomez dated Canadian pop star Justin Bieber for quite some time throughout the 2010s. The relationship was rocky, and they would often split and get back together over and over again. He had been friends with Hailey Baldwin for a few years, with the relationship apparently becoming romantic at one point. While initially this was the cause of the feud between these two, more recently there seems to be a more personal reason for their hatred. A TikTok user posted a side-by-side comparison video of Hailey and Selena to show just how much Hailey had been copying Miss Gomez. There were photos of them wearing similar outfits. They also compared the coincidence of Hailey starting a YouTube cooking series called What's in My Kitchen when Selena had just released an HBO Max cooking show called Selena Plus Chef. Gomez was quick to thank fans for acknowledging the strange copycat behavior and let the world know that she was well aware of the similarities that began to arise and she was not having any of it. Number 6. Olivia Rodrigo and Sabrina Carpenter. Olivia Rodrigo and Joshua Bassett co-starred on the Disney Plus series High School Musical, the series. God, that's a terrible title. During their time on set, they developed a relationship that apparently did not end well, and it may have something to do with one Miss Sabrina Carpenter. The Bizarre Varks alum made headlines in January 2021 after releasing her debut single, Driver's License. The hit song resonated with Rodrigo's fans, including Taylor Swift, but it also caused some to think that it was about the rumored drama between her, Bassett, and Carpenter. Her lyrics were, "And you were probably with the blonde girl who always made me doubt. She's so much older than me. She's everything I'm insecure about." The main reason people think this is a dig at Carpenter is because initially the lyrics were the brunette girl, not blonde, apparently changing it following the news of Sabrina's relationship with Bassett. Sabrina and Olivia basically started a singing roast battle. Apparently they began releasing songs around the same time as each other, including topics of like liars, cheaters, jealousy, all that jazz. It looks like this feud will be fueling quite a few hit songs in the near future. Number 5. Cardi B versus Nicki Minaj. This feud has just been full of juicy moments that we love to watch. A few years ago at a Fashion Week event in New York City, Cardi B and Nicki Minaj appeared at separate times being photographed in stunning gowns on the streets of NYC. However, when the two crossed paths inside the building, things escalated quickly. According to witnesses, Nicki purposely stepped on Cardi's dress before spouting some nasty words about Cardi's baby daughter. Hey, first rule of trashing someone who's a parent, leave the kids out of it. Cardi blew up naturally. She stumbled as she tried to run across the room, once again being held back by bodyguards. But this time, she got through. After a moment of calm, Cardi lunged at Nicki, but is quickly blocked by her own security team, who must have made contact with Cardi because photos taken of her leaving the event show a nasty bump forming on her forehead. That wasn't the end though, as Cardi then began to remove her shoes and fling it at Nicki from across the room. She's like Hawkeye with a shoe, I swear. Nicki and her team kept the shoe as Exhibit A should they ever need to open a lawsuit for the incident. No charges were ever brought to light, but these two have been in a public feud ever since. Number 4. Isaiah Washington versus the Grey's Anatomy cast. Grey's Anatomy is a TV drama centered on the personal and professional lives of 5 surgical interns and their supervisors. The show garnered a massive fan base and was on air for over 420 episodes. For 62 of those episodes, a man named Isaiah Washington portrayed the character of Dr. Preston Burke. Following his departure from the series, Isaiah took to social media to call out his cast and crew of Grey's Anatomy for creating a hostile work environment. It was revealed that apparently Isaiah himself was responsible for the so-called hostility. He had started multiple feuds with fellow cast members, including a physical altercation with Patrick Dempsey on set, using homophobic slurs against T.R. Knight, and throwing shade at Katherine Heigl for throwing shade at him for using the slur. Needless to say, this is a very one-sided feud, as the Grey's producers just simply shut the door in his face and told him to take a hike. Number 3. Kanye West and Pete Davidson. Pete Davidson was the youngest cast member on SNL when he was hired retired at the age of 20. In 2021, Kim Kardashian hosted an episode of the show and starred in a sketch with Pete, parodying A Whole New World from the Disney film Aladdin. The sketch was okay, but apparently sitting that close to each other all week really got them going. At the time, Kim was still involved with rapper Kanye West, who was actually attending the live show, but apparently stormed out of the room following her scene with Pete. Apparently, Kanye had been present at rehearsals all week, and he remembers regularly seeing Pete and Kim smiling and laughing together while he was being ignored entirely. Kim and Kanye began their divorce process not long after that, and simultaneously, Pete announced that him and Kim were official. Since then, Kanye has publicly bashed both his ex and Pete for their actions, and has been in a pretty big feud with him. Was little Kanye mad? Oh well, sucks to suck. Number 2, Jerry the King Lawler and Andy Kaufman. Jerry the King Lawler was a professional wrestler between the 1970s and late 80s. Andy Kaufman was a comedian and a regular star of the legendary sitcom Taxi, yet somehow their paths seemed destined to cross. On an episode of The Late Show with David Letterman in 1982, Jerry and Andy were brought on to share the stage after a feud between the two had become public. Kaufman wanted to make his name more popular and did so by attempting to join the World Wrestling the entertainment company. He eventually wiggled his way into the ring, and producers felt Lawler and Kaufman would make nice on-screen enemies. Lawler was old school and Kaufman was a wacky comedian who did not belong between the ropes. A few months before the interview took place, the two fought in a one-on-one match, and Lawler pile-drived Kaufman into a mat twice, the second of which left Kaufman limp and in need of hospital. On Letterman, Kaufman was sporting a neck brace and appeared to be in enormous amounts of pain. The interview was meant to act as a reconciler for the pair, but instead devolved into shouting, slapping, and the threatening of a lawsuit. Their feud lasted for several years until Kaufman passed away in 1984. Number 1, Will Smith versus Chris Rock. Alright, let's just get this one out of the way. In 2022, Chris Rock was hosting the 94th annual Oscar ceremony when he decided to make a little joke about Jada Pinkett Smith and her hair. Rock expressed his excitement to see Jada in a fictional G.I. Jane movie, but immediately following the joke, which landed for everyone else in the audience, Rock stood in confusion as Will Smith made his way towards the stage. Will adjusted his jacket, he took a firm stance, and then he just clocked Chris right across the face. He winded up his hand first to conjure the ultimate force. Initially being seen as a planned joke between the two, Will then began shouting several times at Rock to keep his wife's name out of his flippin' mouth. Now Chris handled the situation very well. He kept his cool, he laughed it off, and brought out the next award presenters. He was professional and quick to get the night back on track, but unfortunately an hour later Will Smith won the Oscars for Best Actor in a Leading Role. He played Richard Williams, the father of tennis superstars Venus and Serena Williams, and during his speech he gave a half-hearted apology for his actions before claiming the situation was due to his months of portraying the father on set, leaving him with an extreme paternal sense to protect his family. Unfortunately for Will, the slap was enough to get him banned from the Oscars indefinitely. Chris later took to Twitter to share his thoughts on the event, calling Will's actions unnecessary and aggressive. It would appear that getting smacked on live TV isn't something Rock can just forgive. So yeah, this is like the least surprising feud on the list.
Number 10, Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg. For over 4 years, these men have clashed over just about everything, and they haven't exactly tried to keep their rivalry a secret. It started in 2016 when a SpaceX rocket explosion destroyed a $200 million Facebook satellite. Zuckerberg issued a statement saying he was deeply disappointed about the launch and called SpaceX a failure. 2 years later, Musk reignited the feud and tweeted, "Yeah, my fault for being an idiot. We did give them a free launch to make up for it, and I think they had some insurance." But when Facebook became embroiled in the Cambridge Analytica scandal, things got a whole lot worse. Musk publicly deleted all of his company's Facebook pages and said, "It's not a political statement, and I didn't do this because someone dared me to do it. I just don't like Facebook. Gives me the willies. Sorry." He also criticized Facebook's data sharing practices and shared several memes that implied the company was spying on its users. Oh, and they also got into a fight about the future of AI. So clearly they have never seen eye to eye.
At number 9, we have MGK and Eminem. No one can forget these two's epic diss tracks posted by the rapper MGK and Eminem. The feuds date all the way back to 2012 when MGK tweeted about Eminem's daughter Healy. And it wasn't exactly what a father of a teenage girl would want to read on the internet. Now after the twos followed over a song MGK was featured on for Tech Nine's 2018 No Reason, in the lyrics he threw some shade at Eminem by referring to his track Rap God. MGK would say, "To remind you all, you just rap and you're not a rap god."
Eminem would later clap back with his own diss track called Not Alike, where he made fun of MGK featured on Tech Nine's song. In an interview later, Eminem would confirm that the two's conflict had way more to do with Healy, and it was more because the rapper said he was the greatest rapper alive since his favorite rapper banned him from Shade 45. When MGK released his diss track Rap Devil, Eminem came to destroy Kelly's rap career with his own diss track.
Number 8. Adam Levine and Lady Gaga. The Maroon 5 frontman has had several feuds with female artists over the years, but his feud with Lady Gaga really takes the cake. He first criticized her music in 2011 when he tweeted, "Lady Gaga took Vogue and Express Yourself and put them in a blender. The result? Born This Way." Then, only 2 years later, he slammed her creative choices when she dropped her Applause video from Art Pop, which referenced several major works of art throughout history. Adam wrote, "Ugh, recycling old art for a younger generation doesn't make you an artist, it makes you an art teacher. I unabashedly love writing and performing pop music for both myself and everyone around me. That's it. It doesn't need any extra sauce." To which Lady Gaga responded by tweeting, "Uh-oh guys, the art police is here." Adam then wrote, "By the way, I'm not an artist, I sing in a band and I make music with my friends." He also went on to criticize her grammar on Twitter.
Loving this video far? Please hit that like button, it would really help us out. At number 7, we have Vin Diesel and The Rock. You know the saying, don't turn your back on family? Well, the stars Vin Diesel and Dwayne The Rock Johnson, that statement doesn't exist. The two actors made their first on-screen appearance with each other in 2011 while filming The Fast Five. The Rock joined the set as Luke Hobbs, an agent pursuing the Fast and Furious crew for their various crimes against every law enforcement agency across the world. Everything seemed fine when he returned for the 6th and 7th entry of the series. However, in 2016, Dwayne went to his Instagram to refer to unnamed members of the cast as cowardly, timid people. Rumors then started to circulate that he was insulting Vin Diesel. A few days after filming for The Fate of the Furious and it wrapped up, Johnson posted another Instagram thanking some of his castmates by name, but didn't mention Vin Diesel. While The Rock never identified his target, Vin Diesel would later come to confirm it was in fact him in an Instagram video. Later, the duo's co-star, Michelle Rodriguez, would come to confirm that there was tension between the men on set, but it was nothing more than any kind of disagreement any close friend could have.
Number 6. Olivia Wilde and Shia LaBeouf. Shia was initially cast as a lead in Olivia's movie Don't Worry Darling, which she was directing. But soon after production started, news broke out that she had fired him and replaced him with Harry Styles. Olivia then said that she fired him due to a no a-hole policy that she has while directing. She told Variety that his process was not conducive to the ethos that she demands in her productions. He has a process that, in some ways, seems to require a combative energy. She said that she needed to protect the cast from Shia, but Shia was not happy with this side of the story and decided to publicly expose her for lying. He told Variety that he quit her film because he couldn't find time to rehearse with the cast, and in the most explosive revenge move ever, he then leaked a video of Olivia practically begging him to stay in the film, and made it clear that he was never fired in the first place. The video went viral and the result was utter chaos.
Number 5. Drake and Kanye West. When the friendship and working relationship between Kanye and Drake abruptly dissolved following a project the two were working on, it became nearly impossible for fans to keep up on their latest feuds. Back in 2018, things took a sharp turn for the duo as the two began to proceed to hurl insults back and forth in a form of diss tracks. On one of these tracks, it even revealed Drake had a son. Drake felt like he was portrayed by Kanye when he went behind his back regarding his child, because Drake confided in Kanye just before that he was having trouble with his son's mother. The fire reignited between the stars after Drake started following Kim on social media after the reality star split from Kanye. Kanye wrote to his Instagram about the matter to say, "Imagine having a problem with somebody and they follow your wife on Instagram." However, Drake seemingly went after Kanye on his album Certified Lover Boy in September of 2021. The two have since seemed to have put their past behind them.
Number 4. Bill Murray and Chevy Chase. The actors are both well known as comedic heavyweights who helped launch SNL into mainstream success. But in 1978, when Chase returned as a guest host, the two of them got into a physical altercation and began insulting one another. Murray first confronted Chase, telling him that everyone hated him. They then got into a screaming match, which started a physical fight between the two men. SNL star Jane Curtin witnessed the fist fight and said, "It was sad and painful and awful. It was that same kind of tension you would get in a family. It was uncomfortable. I think they both knew the one thing that they could say to one another that would really hurt the most." In a 2012 interview, Murray said that he and Chase were friends again. He told Empire, "It was really a Hollywood fight, a don't touch my face kind of fight. It was an opedial thing, a rupture, because we all felt mad that he had left us, and somehow I was the anointed avenging angel who had to speak for everyone. But Chevy and I are friends now. It's all fine."
Number 3, Cardi B and Nicki Minaj. So the tension between the rappers Cardi B and Nicki Minaj has been ongoing since 2017, with multiple disses, tweets, and general misunderstandings and miscommunications, aided by media narratives pitting the two women against each other. The feud eventually escalated into a physical altercation in 2018 at Harper Bazaar, New York Fashion Week event. Photos and videos of the incident show Cardi B being escorted out of the party barefoot with a sizable bump on her forehead, most likely caused by Nicki Minaj's security team who intervened when Cardi B threw a shoe at Nicki Minaj. The apparent incident that the two collided over was because Nicki decided to insult Cardi's parenting skills. After the clash, Cardi took to Instagram and said she let a lot slide, and because of the result of her interaction with Nicki, she had been questioning her capabilities as a mother. Nicki later came forward on her own radio show and threw shade at Cardi by saying, "Someone get this woman some help." Cardi then went to her Instagram to debunk Nicki's story.
Number 2, Jennifer Lopez and Mariah Carey. These two have been at each other's throats since the early 2000s. In fact, most people remember the iconic line that Mariah told a reporter when she said, "I don't know her." Although it sounds hilarious, Mariah has maintained her negative opinion of JLo all these years. For instance, she was once asked what she thought about Beyonce and JLo, and she responded by saying that they don't even belong in the same category. She said, "Well, it's hard. You can't really put those two people in the same category because one is in a really different generation. They just started singing later. But when you talk about Beyonce, I think she's wonderful. She's great. She's a talented person." But it seemed like she forgot to compliment JLo as well. A few years later, Mariah spoke to Andy Cohen and doubled down on her comments, saying, "I don't know her. What am I supposed to say?" So it looks like it'll take a miracle for these two iconic performers to ever be on good terms.
Number 1, we have Paris Hilton and Lindsay Lohan. Now, the pair have been frenemies for quite some time now. With the two of them often being pitted against each other in the tabloids, their feuds can get pretty messy when on full display for the world to see. The two were known to be best friends until 2006 when Lindsay was captured in a series of photos with Paris's ex-boyfriend. Paris was then captured in a video with her friend Brandon Davis, and you could hear the two making fun of Lindsay's career and body. Lindsay would then speak to Elle and say she would never fight with a woman over a guy because it's bad karma. By November of that year, the two seemed to have put their differences aside as they were captured in a picture on a girls' night out with Britney Spears. However, in 2018, Paris would shade Lindsay by saying the photo the paparazzi captured of the three girls in 2006 was just supposed to be a girls' night with her and Britney, and Lindsay chased after them to get in the car. Even today, the stars continue to bring up old beef with each other, and it's gotten to the point where enough is enough and the two just need to put their past in the past.